Now on deck. Attention to colors. Hi, I'm Stu Riley. I am calling this 151st annual meeting at the San Francisco Yacht Club to order. We're reopening this as the voting started this year on Wednesday, December 2nd. First, we have passed out and posted online the minutes from last year's annual meeting, the 150th, and these minutes were also available at the polling stations for those that came in person to vote. I'd like to seek a motion to pass the minutes from the 150th.
I move to approve the minutes to the 150th annual meeting.
I have a motion from Vice Commodore Jesberg. I'd like to hear a second.
I second.
I have a second from Treasurer Madeline Morey. And now what we'd like is the audience to please vote on approval of these minutes. There is a chart that might come up on your screen. If not, there it is. There is a hand at the bottom of your screen. Click on it, and that will vote for this approval. The motion has passed. Thank you. We are now going to move into a report from our youth committee. The co-chairs are Matthew Sessions and Todd Moody. This is a pre-recorded video, and we'll go into that right now.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Sessions, and I am very proud to have co-chaired the 2020 Youth Committee. I want to give you a quick summary of how we did this year. We started out our spring as busy as ever. Our keelboat sailors, our youth sailors were ready to help us win back the San Francisco Cup. We had sailors packed up and ready to go down regattas in Southern California. And we had high school programs thriving. And then as we all know, the COVID shelter-in-place orders changed all those plans. Our staff went immediately into shutdown mode. We inventoried, we stored and secured all of our club assets. Also during that time, because everything was still ongoing and fluid, we charged our families of the youth sailors on the monthly program for their tuition for the program. We appreciate the parents' understanding during this uncertain time, but because of these ongoing collected revenues, we were able to keep our hourly coaches and our staff on payroll throughout the shelter-in-place period, and we sincerely appreciate their understanding there. And so now I'd like to introduce my co-chair, Todd Moody, who's going to tell you all about summer sailing.
Thank you, Matthew. We had a very successful summer program this year, but it was completely different because of the COVID requirements. We had to create a tent city in the back parking lot. Thanks, members, for putting up with it. We tested 26 staff before each session, and there was no sickness in the program the entire summer. We used every single asset we had, all the whalers, all our lasers, all our opties, et cetera. And we taught 205 students this year. This is one of the biggest programs in the Bay Area. And we had record revenue this year. So Matthew will now finish up and talk about our race program.
Thank you, Todd. Our race team is thriving, and we're super excited. Right behind me right now, I see the opties out in the distance, and the lasers are heading out, and the program doesn't slow down. So we've got 40 to 50 sailors in the opti program right now. We've got 15 sailors in our laser program, and we are really excited as we're developing our next generation of Olympian sailors. This year would not have been possible without dedicated members. We want to give a special thank you to Matt Freimeyer from the Finance Committee for all his work, working with Forrest and Matt and myself. We literally had to re-budget the program at mid-year to make sure it was as fiscally responsible as we could offer to the yacht club. Also want to thank a general manager, David Robinson, who spent more time involved in youth operations than he probably ever desired to. Roxanne from the race office helped out with Abby, Jack Barden, our head coach. And most importantly, we do want to thank Director of Sailing, Forrest Gay, and Director of Youth Sailing, Abby Featherstone. With them, this program literally would not have happened. They went above and beyond. They never slowed down, and our program was more successful than ever. So with that, the Youth Committee stands on the report.
Great. Now we're going to move on to our Fleet Committee annual report. And that's going to be Matt Freimeyer, who is going to talk to us through a Zoom feed, and then show us also a brief video that I think you'll find very interesting and exciting to watch.
Thank you, Commodore. I am very pleased to report to the membership that in November of this year, the Fleet Committee presented the Board of Directors with a comprehensive plan, which basically outlined a program to lease 6 RS-21 sailboats for a period of 19 months. This was the culmination of 2 years worth of work after being mandated a couple of years ago by a prior Board of Directors to look into this effort. And I'm also pleased to report that that proposal was accepted and approved by the Board of Directors in their November meeting. We're pretty excited about this opportunity. Next slide, please, Meredith. So one question that people have been asking me is why now? We're in the middle of a pandemic. There's financial challenges. There's all these things going on. Why is now a good opportunity to bring boats to the club? And to be honest with you, the committee thinks, and I believe the board agreed with us, that there's no better time for a few reasons. One, there was a very unique opportunity made available to us by the builder to lease these boats for 19 months and try them out. We're going to be able to experiment with the boats, with our programming, with the demand from our membership, and figure out what is great about them, what's not great about them, and take all that feedback to make long-term decisions. It also is going to provide increased access to the harbor and water for members at a time where, to be honest with you, it's one of the few things that a lot of us can do. I will speak for myself. I had a ton of fun on the water with my family this year, and it was a great release and a great escape from everything going on related to the pandemic. And the other thing is, we believe that this additional benefit could be one of the things that is really available to continue to be available next year. As we just have learned in the last few days, this is a dynamic situation, but outdoor activities have tended to be okay. And this picture here on this slide is member Brent Harrell and his son Carter, who were part of our test team. We were testing these boats. Next slide, please, Meredith. So why are we confident that this can work? Well, we canvassed all kinds of yacht clubs and talked about their fleets, what boats they had, what worked, what didn't. One of the ones we spent some time with was the Lakewood Yacht Club. And Lakewood Yacht Club last year purchased 12 RS-21s. They developed programming for learn to sail, learn to race. They have a whole variety of programming down there to appeal to a broad swath of the membership. And their experience, I think, is telling. 20% of their membership has checked out and has been checked out on those boats and is ready to use them. And that's in the first year alone. They've got 50 new members that basically have said that this fleet is something that's interesting to them and part of the reason that they're coming to their club. They also have a brand new women's sailing program with over 30 participants that sail and get out of the water every single week. So we're sort of cautiously optimistic that some of these demands we will see here at the San Francisco Yacht Club. Next slide, please, Meredith. So when is all this happening? Well, we're working to get these boats shipped out in December. They're built in the UK. We're hoping that they get shipped out before the holidays, and our goal is to have them in our harbor in April. That is a goal, and it's not written in stone, just like everything else in COVID times. But what the fleet committee and the race development committee are going to be focused on in the coming months is really getting ready for those. So you can see a timeline here. What are we doing? December through March, we're getting ready. We're going to survey the membership about the programming that sounds interested to them. We're going to develop our procedures and processes. We're going to work on our scheduling and our programming, and we're going to prepare physically for the boat's arrival. April, the boats are supposed to arrive, and we're supposed to be launching them, doing safety checks, and beginning initial programming. And then hopefully in late to mid-April through the rest of the summer, we're out sailing. And one of the big features of this fleet is going to be garnering feedback from the members as you use the boats to make sure that we're programming the kinds of events, the kinds of training that members desire. Next slide, please, Meredith. So what does that look like? Here's the things that we're thinking about initially. And once again, we will be polling the membership to get ideas and understand demand. Learn to sail, racing opportunities, both from a skill development and a fleet racing standpoint, structured open sailing. And what that means is structured times where you can just go for a nice sail with your family, but there will be people there to help you. The programming is going to be broad and inclusive. And as I said, it's going to adapt to feedback on demand. We're hoping to keep the boats in the water to speed, ease of use, and speed putting the boats away. We are going to have trailers and dollies available to get them out of the way for high demand weekends. And I would also like to point out that we're definitely going to be sponsoring events that are open to non-members. So these boats will not just be for members, but also for non-members or prospective members. Next slide, please, Meredith. Okay, so here's a couple pictures of our boats all packed up, ready to come. We're pretty excited about it. 6 of them ship in one container. They were designed specifically that way to be economical to ship. The shipping cradles that you see the boats sitting in there will be turned into yard dollies, which are basically ways to move them around on the hard storage when they're out of the water. And they can be stacked to save space. And one of the things that appealed to us about the boat, it's actually a pretty green boat. They're built with eco-friendly materials, bio-designed resins, and recycled plastic bottles, believe it or not. They also have an electric motor, which is both quiet and pollution-free, and they're considered one of the greenest sailboats in production. Next slide, Meredith. I guess that's the last slide. So I think we're gonna move on to the video here. Some of you might recognize this video. This is the Fleet Committee testing these boats back in September of 2019. There's 2 boats. There's one over there on the right side of the screen towards Alcatraz, and the one right here in front of you. This one has a masthead asymmetrical spinnaker. We are going to be using these boats with a fractional asymmetrical spinnaker that's a little smaller and a little easier to control and probably better for learning. We were very surprised. This is a 15 to 20 knot day, and as you can see, there's 3 people legs in the boat. and very much in control. The boats are very easy to sail, even in big breeze. They don't wipe out very easily. There's the fractional spinnaker, the one with the pink on it, which will be the setup that we have for the club. I really do, before we move on to the next segment, I need to thank the committee. Our committee has worked, like I said, for 2 years and spent countless hours reaching out to other yacht clubs, modeling revenue, working on physical assets. And I really do want to name them one by one, because it was a large undertaking starting from a blank piece of paper, and they really all performed extremely well, and they've got a lot of work in front of them too. So I want to make sure I recognize them so they'll help me keep working. So that committee consists of Steve Fentress, Andrea Finn, Emily Foley, Brent Harrell, and David James, as well as our current Vice Commodore, Don Jesberg. I would also like to call out both Roxanne and Forrest, who have been integrally involved with that effort from the first minute. And with that, I'll turn it back to our Commodore.
Thank you, Matt Freimeyer, and thank you again to your committee. A great report and super project, and we're all looking forward to the future with those boats. We're going to move on now to a report from the Strategic Advisory Committee, and reporting will be Staff Commodores Tad Lacey and Ted Gazoulis. We have a pre-recorded feed right now.
Good evening, my fellow members. My name is Tad Lacey. I am a staff commodore of the San Francisco Yacht Club and chair of the Strategic Advisory Committee, a committee whose function it is to support the board of directors in defining, documenting, implementing, assisting, and recommending to the board of directors various initiatives and projects which they have requested that we analyze on their behalf. One of these special projects is, it was a complete review of the committee structure and system in the San Francisco Yacht Club. This project spanned over a year and a half, a great deal of input from the entire SAC group, or the SAC is an acronym for Strategic Advisory Committee, which I'll continue to use, and I'm sure Ted will as well. It involved the entire committee, but as we do, as a matter of course, on any given project we work on, we ask one of the members to take the lead on it. The lead on the committee review and analyzation of it for the board was Staff Commodore Ted Gazoulis. He, and with the assistance of the committee, did a very thorough review, rewrote the definition of the committees where appropriate, and also made various bylaw recommendations, changing the directive through the bylaws for each committee. He's completed this task. It was a large undertaking. I think everybody on the membership owes him a great debt of gratitude. And for more specific, and you'll be voting on these or have voted on these bylaws as part of our annual meeting, which we're all a part of virtually. So to give you a little bit more detail on this, let me introduce Staff Commodore Ted Gazoulis.
Thank you, Tad. As Tad said, the Strategic Advisory Committee was asked by the board to review committees generally and make recommendations. As part of our review, we talked with board members, we talked with committee members and chairs, with members who aren't currently involved in committee activities. We reviewed policies and procedures and rules, and we went through the bylaws to make sure that what we were doing and what the bylaws said were lined up with what the club really is doing. We started by evaluating the overarching goals and reflected on items that had been raised in our various conversations. We wanted to address important issues, but we didn't want to make changes just for the sake of change. We spent a fair amount of time thinking about those things which were important enough that they should be bylaws, and those things which could change over time and really should be matters of board policy. We provided 5 specific recommendations to the board. They were adopted by the board at the board's September meeting, and 4 of them resulted in proposed changes to the bylaws, which, as Tad said, we voted on today. First, we provided an overview, general overview, and suggested best practices. These included meeting schedules, reporting to the board and to the membership, the need for ongoing review of committee missions, leadership planning, and other items that are fairly straightforward for corporate governance. And the board adopted them unanimously, and I'll say eagerly. That may be too much. In any event, we then looked at a handful of committees that we thought were important. First was Harbor. Actually, there was not much to change in the Harbor bylaw itself. We did some editing for clarity and for consistency. But one of the areas that we looked at pretty carefully is the fact that maintenance around the club has become a harbor responsibility. Given that this can and has changed over time, we concluded that that responsibility really should be part of board policy rather than embodied in a bylaw. As a result, it's not in the revised harbor bylaw. Next was House Committee, and this is a little more challenging, I think. The existing bylaw was frankly very, very dated. It was outdated years and years ago. The proposed bylaw better outlines what the roles and responsibilities are with regard to the off-the-water activities of our member-driven organization. It identifies House as the committee with oversight responsibility for the operational performance of the barn galley with the effective interaction with the general manager. It'll still be responsible for discussion and dialogue and development of policies and procedures that the board will have to decide to adopt or not. And clearly, there will obviously need to be continuing, ongoing, substantial interaction between the House Committee, the General Manager, and the Finance Committee. We think the proposed bylaw adds real clarity, and I think it'll help us as we go forward. Fourth was facilities planning. There was no clearly defined committee that had specific responsibility for the development of the club's ongoing capital needs that are not harbor related and not boat related. In our discussions with members, we concluded that facilities planning was the right place for this, and the revised bylaw specifically identifies facilities planning as that committee. Finally, disciplinary matters. The club did not have a clear and consistent way to consider those rare occasions when there were significant matters of member discipline to discuss. The board has ultimate responsibility, of course, but as a matter of good corporate governance, the board, shouldn't be the district attorney, the trial attorney, the judge, the jury, and the appeals venue. So basically, what we concluded was there should be a separate body that does that work, makes a presentation to the board, and then the board can decide what it wants to do. Rather than creating a separate standalone committee that rarely gets used, we concluded that the Strategic Advisory Committee, a subset of the Strategic Advisory Committee, was probably the right way, the right place to take on that function. The subcommittee will consist of those Strategic Advisory Committee members who had previously been voted either as officers or directors of the club, thus have served the club and have been accepted, I'll call it, by our membership to be responsible for what happens. The proposed bylaw describes that. And then, of course, the actual disciplinary action and the decision to accept or modify or reject the disciplinary committee recommendation lies exclusively with the board. Our hope and belief is that the adoption of these bylaws will add some clarity and consistency to club governance. And if you have questions or comments, you certainly can talk with Tad or with me or anyone on the Strategic Advisory Committee. I want to take just the last second here to thank the board for its input and its ongoing support of what we're doing, and thank all of the membership for considering these revisions. Tad?
Ted, thank you for that. All your good work and the excellent report and summary presented to our members this afternoon. As Ted mentioned, it's a pleasure for all of the members of the SAC to work with the board of directors. I'd like to first acknowledge the other members of the committee who are not on the camera with Ted and I, Matt Freimeyer, Mark Maymar, Martin Koppel, Randy Ferguson, and the Vice Commodore and ex officio, Don Jesberg. All of these gentlemen put in a huge amount of work this year on a variety of topics and projects to look at and evaluate on behalf of the board of directors. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I encourage you to read our report contained in the annual report to the members. It's a pleasure to see all of you through the camera virtually, and we wish you a very happy new year, and stay healthy, and congratulations to the new board of directors and officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to the auxiliary annual report. This is a video feed pre-recorded from Chairperson Camille Jampolsky.
Hello, I'm Camille Jampolsky, the 2020 Auxiliary President. Good evening, and thank you, Commodore, for this opportunity to speak this evening. It's been my privilege to serve as Auxiliary President, and it's been an absolute honor to share this year of leadership with Commodore Stu Riley and Honorary Member, Auxiliary Member Helen Riley. It's not the year we expected, but certainly a year we'll all remember. Auxiliary is responsible for providing social events for family members and their family, and supporting club projects that benefit the general membership. In a typical year, the San Francisco Yacht Club Auxiliary organizes, produces, and funds 16 events. However, this was not a typical year. When the pandemic hit, it was obvious that many of our events would be canceled, while others drastically modified in order to fall in line with the local and club social gathering protocol. In the end, all of our spring events were canceled, mostly planned, but canceled. By fall, our club was at a steady tiptoe toward normal. Social gathering restrictions had eased to the point that we could offer some modified events. Though Auxiliary Cup joined the long list of canceled events, event chair Jenny Crone and her team refused to give up on an opportunity to highlight Lady Skippers and crew. In its place, Auxiliary sponsored Catch Me If You Can, Lady Skipper Edition. Dreamboat's chair, Leslie Rulin, collaborated with past president Sissy Carrain to bring the beautiful Dreamboat Matthew Turber to San Francisco Yacht Club. This 132-foot brigantine gracefully sailed into our harbor, collected her passengers for 2 sold-out, waitlisted 3-hour bay cruises. Though it's proved to be a challenging year, the San Francisco Yacht Club board and its members offered continued support and understanding as Auxiliary sought methods to host modified events and create opportunities to carry out our mission. Thank you. Member dues make up about 75% of our revenue budget. In a typical year, fundraising becomes critical for making up the difference and for our ability to provide gifts and grant awards in accordance with our mission statement. However, this was far from a typical year. Shortly after the onset of shelter in place, the Auxiliary felt the overall emotional, financial, and social climate was not conducive to fundraising. The Auxiliary decided to cancel all planned fundraising events with the knowledge that we had funds in reserve for such need. I thank our current board and every board that came before for your successful fundraising efforts and for doing such a fine job managing our funds. Because Auxiliary was not able to host our events this year, the board made it a priority to give back to the club a major portion of the funds collected from our members as auxiliary contribution. I am pleased to report that the Auxiliary gifted roughly $34,000 in 2020. The gifts included refurbishing the Sailing Center women's bathroom, upgraded stackable chairs for special events in the bridge and president's room of the new Cove House, donation for the staff appreciation night to employ the gift fund presented at their holiday party, and the Bill Black Award. On November 12th, the Auxiliary held our annual meeting. At this time, we elected our 2021 officers and directors. Our 2021 officers are Leslie Ruland, President, Tina Lund, Vice President, Courtney Lee, Treasurer, and Kimberly Drager, Secretary. Directors are Marge Baylor, Jane Elkins, Jolynn Hardiman, Jenny Crone, Sally Newton, Cecily Starrin, and Patty Young. We also announced the recipients of two very special awards. Madeline Morey was presented the Nancy Rogers Race Grant by B.B. Bernheim and Andrea Finn, last year's recipient. Michelle Farborough was presented the Marianne Mason Yachtswoman of the Year Award by last year's recipient, Martha Robinson, and Marianne's son, Steve Mason. The Bill Black Memorial Junior Achievement Award will be announced and presented at the Youth Sailing Award Dinner. Moving into the holiday season, we have several modified events we hope we'll be able to host. Co-chairs Kimberly Drager and Jolyn Hardyman are busy organizing a socially distanced social pod holiday decorating of the club. This year, Auxiliary was gifted with a brand new pre-lit 9-foot-tall Christmas tree. Thank you, Jennifer and Gordon Hull, for this beautiful new tree for our new Cove House. Get Lit Chair Courtney Lee and her team are currently planning a social distance lighting of the harbor. And finally, parents and grandparents, stay tuned. Auxiliary Director Marge Baylor is in direct conversation with Santa, and rumor has it that jolly old St. Nick will be at our club December 6th with goodie bags for all good little boys and girls. Social distance restrictions are going to continue to affect our events, certainly through the winter and likely into next year. But we're adjusting, learning to adapt, and excited to find new ways to carry out our mission. On behalf of the Auxiliary, I offer a heartfelt thank you to our General Manager, David Robinson, Commodore Stu Riley, as well as the entire San Francisco Yacht Club Board of Directors for all the great work and dedication leading our club through this most difficult of times. Moving into next year, I know you are in good hands with our incoming Auxiliary President, Leslie Ruland.
We have a number of written committee reports, and these also have been posted on the club website, as well as are in written form if you picked up a packet at the polling place. We're going to go through and start with the Cruise Committee. The chair, David Jampolsky, stands on his report. The Entertainment Committee, co-chairs, past President Helen Riley and Cindy O'Donnell. They stand on their report. Facilities Planning Committee, Chair, Staff Commodore Ed Lynch, stands on their report. Harbor Committee, Chair, David Jampolsky, stands on his report. Historical Committee, Chair, Staff Commodore Ken Frost, stands on his report. House Committee, Chair, Stephanie Portillo, stands on the report. Membership Committee, Chair, Secretary Jenny Daly, stands on the report. Membership Engagement Committee, Chair, Jolyn Hardiman, stands on the report. New Wave Committee, Chair, Cassidy Lynch, stands on her report. Protocol Committee, co-chairs, Staff Commodore Bill Melvillestat and Staff Commodore Wendy Miller. They stand on their report. Race Development Committee, Chair, Matt Freimeyer, stands on their report. Race Management, Race Council, Chair, Director Alex Rothenberg, stands on his report. The first Saturday in December of 2019, I became the 2020 Commodore of the San Francisco Yacht Club. Being a member for 43 years, I was honored to become your Commodore. My tenure began this time last year during the holidays, and our clubhouse was beautifully decorated for the season by our auxiliary. Auxiliary events, Get Lit, the Santa Brunch, the Holiday Gala, were all well attended and plenty of fun. Speaking of these events, a couple nights ago, we had a socially distanced event called Get Lit. This is where members were asked to decorate their boats and compete for fun for a few prizes. We had over 24 boats. We had a lot of people on their boats, socially spaced, and the top honors went to the Moriani family, the Kuhn family, the O'Donnell family, and the chairman, Courtney Lee, also had her own choice for honorable mention, and that was Kim and Jim Drager. In January of this year, we celebrated the tame but festive New Year's Eve celebration in our main clubhouse. It was just a few weeks later that I took a trip to Niseko, Japan for an epic ski vacation with 15 of my best friends. February began with excitement when San Francisco 49ers made it to the Super Bowl. The club, in a sea of red and gold, hosted a great Super Bowl party. The 49ers lost to Kansas City Chiefs, but it was still a great time, even though our team did not win. We had so many things planned for 2020, and they were ready to be implemented throughout the year. As we fast forward to mid-March, life changed as we know it. Due to the onset of COVID-19, the SFYC Cove House was closed for 2.5 months. And the board of directors, many volunteers, David Robinson, the general manager, we sought to maintain income and benefits for our entire staff. As well as benefits, we all hoped it would blow over. Unfortunately, as of this writing, the world is still experiencing an epidemic. And although our club has been able to open incrementally in accordance with the local and state guidelines for COVID, we are not able to resume normal activities at the club. Our board of directors, staff, and many volunteers have worked tirelessly, and because of that, there is a lot of good news and optimism we can all get our arms around. Under the direction and leadership of Forrest Gay, Director of Sailing, and Abby Featherstone, Youth Sailing Director, the SFYC put together a successful sailing program against all odds. Our program was arguably the biggest and the best, not in just the greater Bay Area, but in the whole country. We also managed to get out on the water with several informal cruise outs around the Bay, Delta, and offshore. We got some club races in. We modified them into pursuit races. We had a series called Catch Me If You Can. We've had to alter much of what we are accustomed to doing. However, we have begun to have some fun. We can't see the smiles behind the masks, but we're being innovative and still following the rules and the guidelines for COVID-19. Our finance team, headed competently by Treasurer Madeline Morey and our Controller Blake Kennedy, prudently looked at each line item by department, focused on efficiencies, and put a hold on all expense and capital projects that were not critical to our facilities, maintenance, or essential safety. We opened this beautiful new Cove House. We can't wait to use it. Thanks to Staff Commodore Ed Lynch and his team and our generous donors who've helped to make this happen through unimaginable obstacles and delays. We came in on budget, and we look forward to being able to use this exceptional facility to its fullest potential. I would like to thank the entire membership of the SFYC and our wonderful staff, headed by the very capable and hardworking David Robinson, for their support during this unique and challenging year. You may be interested in knowing that the Board of Directors generally meets once a month during the year. By last count, we have met virtually over 30 times in 2020. The board gave a tremendous amount of their time this year, and I thank each of them for their hard work during this stressful year. Because of serving during the pandemic, I have had many people say to me, somewhat sarcastically, "You certainly are the lucky Commodore to be in charge this year." It is certainly not the year as your Commodore that I envisioned, but I appreciate and sincerely thank all of you have given much of yourselves to help benefit the members, our families, and our staff. We are connected by what we have in common, which has helped all of us during this difficult year. We have perhaps one of the finest facilities and harbors in the world. And the fortitude and vitality of our membership is something I am proud of as your Commodore. We should all pause and look up at our main flagpole at the signal flags, CG over 1. Those flags, as you probably remember, translates to "I will stand by to assist you." It's been a privilege to be your Commodore, and in many ways, I am the lucky Commodore. I'm also very lucky to be married to my wife, Helly, for 31 years, who's patiently, mostly, put up with my occasional anxiety and my mood swings in the last 10 months. And I would like her to come up here, and I'd like to give her just a token of thanks.
Just going to say thanks to everyone. It was a great year, even though it wasn't.
Sorry. Okay, we are now going to show a video. It's kind of a year in review, and I think you'll enjoy this. So there we go. Okay, great. That was excellent. Right now, I'd like to ask Secretary Jenny Daly, do we have any questions from the members?
We currently do not have any questions from the members. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A field at the bottom of your screen. Thank you.
So what we'll do is we'll move forward into what we call member recognition, and we can return back to the questions as they come in. The member recognition is for members that have achieved 25 years as a member or 50 years. And you're recognized by also a pin that you can wear proudly around the club, and people will know of your longevity with the club. If you don't have that pin, you can pick one up if your name is called at the front office, or you can call the front office and ask them to send it to you. I will now present the 2020 annual report, recognition of 25 and 50-year members. The San Francisco Yacht Club continues our tradition of honoring long-term club members with the silver 25-year pin and the golden 50-year pin. Pins are presented to those achieving these milestones this year to recognize their loyalty and all they have done to keep our heritage and traditions alive. I'll begin with our silver members achieving membership for 25 years. Hans Reich, Christopher Dawson, Timothy DeCamps, Michael Jackson, Iris Para, Jackie Sorensen, Kenneth Frost III, Michael Frost, Dorsey Wells, James Cunningham, Lisa Barry Matthews, Claire Goff Wadbrook, Peter Gathings, Sandra Shepard. I will now present our golden members for 50 years of membership. James Coggin, Herman Frenzel, Thomas Kenefick, Bruce Moody, Stephen Reedon, Fred Rose, Alex Reinecke, Sandra Warnham, Daniel King, Walter Crump III, Kenneth Metzger, Michael Green, Reese Jones, Scott Newhall. Thank you. Okay, great. And I'd like to again congratulate all those members that have achieved this new status of longevity in this great club of ours. Next, I'd like to share with you a pre-recorded video from our staff commentator, Jim Robinson, who's chair of the 8 Bells Committee. And this is his report.
Good evening. I'm Jim Robinson, the chairman of 8 Bells. 8 Bells is a special committee that serves at the pleasure of the Commodore and the board of directors. Serving on the committee this year was the Yachtswoman of the Year for 2019 and 2 past presidents of the auxiliary. Serving with me was my wife, Martha, Stephanie Strube, and Marilee Rimmer. And we were ably assisted by Evelyn Swincott-Beyer. 8 Bells provides a service to those members and family members that have lost loved ones. What you tend to do is hear from us on one of the worst days of your life or shortly afterwards. We contact the family of those that have lost members and offer the services of the San Francisco Yacht Club. Those services involve informing the rest of our members of the passing. It also involves the opportunity, should they choose to have the ashes scattered, by taking our boat out, a 50-foot catamaran over on the 200 dock, to scatter the ashes off Angel Island. The services are also helping to set up festivities of life at the yacht club, but that's done through the catering manager and Evelyn. For years, I've told you in the past about a story about the Roosevelt and the Antoine that were surviving one of the worst hurricanes in the Atlantic back in the 1920s. The Roosevelt stood by this ship for about 3 days and flew these flags A over I. The reason I'm bringing this up is because for years I've told you this story and that we fly the flags A over I off flyer when we take people over to Angel Island. When the virus hit this year, I thought it'd be a nice thing to put the flags up on our masthead off the Cove House. But I turned up a book that was published in the 1850s. This is a reprint from 1969 that stated that the A over I did not mean we'll stand by you, we won't abandon you. It meant something else. So I had to go on a bit of a search to find out exactly what it meant. And with Christopher Lacey and Admiral Jim Ellis, we set about to try and find out exactly what the appropriate array of flags would be. The voyage took us in research to Amsterdam, to Greenwich, throughout London, to the east coast of the United States, to Mystic Seaport, and over here across the bay to the San Francisco Maritime Museum. We finally found out that through a woman named Gina Bay, who works at the San Francisco Maritime Museum, that the appropriate flag array should be CG over 1, which stands for We'll Stand By to Assist You. So this is throughout February. In March, on the 16th, Rear Commodore Christopher Lacey, Admiral Jim Ellis, the Harbor Chair David Jampowski, and myself raised the array that still flies off the clubhouse here. It was about 8 months ago. Through Christopher Lacey's work, this has grown across the world, actually, and now the array is flying 87 yacht clubs, 11 states, 16 different countries on 6 continents. A couple weeks ago, a Fortune 500 company picked it up and sent letters out to all of their employees, over 200,000, telling them the story about the San Francisco Yacht Club putting this array up, the people who did it, and encouraged their employees to take this into consideration when dealing with their clients during these troubled times. So the CG over 1 is what's flying now. And there's a poster that you'll see a photo of during this presentation of the A over I and of the Roosevelt standing by the Antoine. She is indeed flying the A over I, which doesn't mean we'll stand by you. What it meant was you need to abandon ship, which I thought was a little inappropriate to be flying off our yacht club during a time like this. But it was nice to catch what the error was. It turns out the story came about from one of the crewmen who saw the flags flying off the Roosevelt and just assumed that it meant that we'll stand by you, we'll not abandon you. The painting was produced, the painting became famous, and the story was passed on. Now you know the rest of the story. Before I read the names of those that we lost this year, I wanted to read you something that our incoming Rear Commodore sent me a few years ago. It's called Gone From My Sight. I'm standing upon the seashore, a ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the ocean blue. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck, a white cloud just where the sea and the sky come to mingle with each other. And then someone by my side says, she's gone. Gone where? She's gone from our sight, that's all. She's just as large in mast, hull and spar as she was when she left my side. And she's just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, there she goes, she's gone, there are other eyes watching her coming and the other voices are ready to take up the glad shout, here she comes. This year we lost 18 people who were members, but we've lost more than that. Of these 18 members and members of the yacht club, they've lost loved ones, they've lost wives, husbands, children. The only ones that we acknowledge, though, in this particular incident are exact members. So when you hear these names, think of those that aren't listed in this as well. While I read these names, consider raising a glass. I know we aren't allowed to drink at these meetings normally, but I assume that if you're watching this, you're probably drinking. So I would encourage you to raise a glass as you hear the names of someone who you knew or loved or will miss. Michael McGowan, Gerd Jacob, Ruth Wazer, Robert Fisher, Rose Marie Stevenson, William Sandy Corbett, Marion Wellish, Marilyn Kessler, Lawrence Kim, Willis Polite, Patricia Duggan, Casey Milbray Jones, Priscilla Blinko, Saloma Fisher, Midge Moore, Ida Mae Berg, Philip Perkins, and Warren Westerhoff. The bell comes from watches were stood on board ships when they were in transit offshore. To keep track of where it was and what time it was and when you were supposed to go on watch, they'd ring this bell in increments of 1 and then 2 close ones together, a pause, and then 2 more close ones together until you heard 8 bells, which is the changing of a watch, that one watch ends and another one begins. So as I ring this bell again, think of your friends. And if you're able to, stand or just raise a glass, the bells. Our friends and crewmates, their watch is relieved. Thank you.
Okay, if I could ask of all of you, if you've got something nearby, something to drink perhaps, I'd like you just to take a moment, raise your glass, and have a toast to those who are no longer with us. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Secretary Jenny Daly if there are any more questions.
There are still no questions in the queue. Staff Commodore Ed complimented the board on a great presentation, but no questions.
Thank you. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to move to an update from the 2020 Junior Board. It's a recap, and we also have Vice Commodore Don Jesper helping with that presentation.
Hi, I'm Morgan Mosley, the current Junior Commodore, and I would just like to thank everyone who made this year so amazing. Taylor, Tessa, and I are so proud of the work that we were able to accomplish, from working with the fleet captains to hosting a club-wide trash cleanup. And overall, I'm just so thankful for the position, and I just had such an amazing time. So thank you. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the new Junior Commodore, Taylor Elliott.
Hi, I'm Taylor, and this past year I served as the Junior Vice Commodore, and I couldn't be more excited to become the Junior Commodore this year. I'm also very excited to welcome Haley and Lexi onto the Junior Board, and I know we will be able to accomplish so much. Although I will miss working with Morgan and Tessa, this year I hope to focus on giving back to the community with more events like the trash cleanup, but also with Junior Board sponsored regattas and bonding activities. So thank you so much, and I can't wait to see what this year will bring.
Good evening and welcome to the San Francisco Yacht Club annual meeting for 2020. I am Vice Commodore Don Jesberg, and as many of you know, this youth program at San Francisco Yacht Club has been very important to us for many, many years. We're very happy to have the contributions of several officers who help organize activities for the youth program and the youth training here at San Francisco Yacht Club, and we've elected a board of directors to help with that effort. We have Taylor Elliott, who's going to come in as the Junior Commodore of the San Francisco Yacht Club. Taylor, congratulations. We look forward to your efforts next year, and thank you for taking the job.
Thank you so much.
We have Haley Thompson, who will be her Vice Commodore. And Haley, we want to welcome you and appreciate your efforts on behalf of the San Francisco Yacht Club and the junior program here.
Thank you.
And Lexi Session will be our Secretary Treasurer for the junior board. And we appreciate all the efforts that you will contribute next year. Thank you for taking the job.
Thank you.
So we're very proud of our juniors here. We're very proud of our new board. So thank you very much.
At this point, we'd like to recognize our 2020 Yachtswoman of the Year, Michelle Faribaugh. The Mary Ann Mason Yachtswoman of the Year. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce our treasurer, Madeline Moray, who is going to talk to us about another special award, and that is the Yachtsman of the Year. So please give her your attention.
I'm sure everybody will be relieved I have all my pieces of paper this time. This person has been a very special help to me this year, so it's a pleasure to be able to talk about him and give this award. Our 2020 Yachtsman of the Year comes from Cleveland, Ohio. He's been an active sailor and racer since he was quite young and introduced to sailing by his father on their Herreshoff design boat, Bullseye. He learned to sail on Lake Pymatuning at the Pymatuning Yacht Club and participated in their junior sailing program. When he was 15, his family purchased a Lightning, a class in which he has competed regularly at both the local and national level. But his adoring mother was always a little anxious about her son on and off the water, and in a loving nod to his mom's concern, our yachtsman named his first Lightning by using painter's tape to spell relax on the stern. He frequently traveled throughout the Midwest and East Coast during his teenage and young adult years to race relax. And I quote, "This tall, skinny rock star sailor was the constant winner." In 1985, he won the Smythe Junior Sailing Championship Area E quarterfinals and placed third in the semifinals. The theme for our yachtsman is his long and loyal friendships. A fellow sailor contributed, "As someone who has crewed for a lot of people in the Lightning class, there is no one I'd rather sail with. He is not only always in control of the boat and a talented skipper, but he is also a good sportsman and kind to his crew and competitors. We have fun sailing together even when we aren't winning." Our yachtsman made great friends during his junior sailing and young adult years and met great sailors along the way. He met his good friend Skip Dieball during competitions in the Interlake Yachting Association and later teamed up with Skip and Skip's brother to campaign Relax. They had a great time sailing together, and at the 1989 North American Championships led the qualifying races. They mixed it up with very well-known sailors with names like Reed, Hutchinson, Shore, and Fisher. To quote Skip, "I'm not sure where we finished at the end of the event, but we certainly made our collective mark and with great flair." No idea what he meant by that. Our yachtsman continued his passion for sailing and racing after moving to San Francisco in 1994. After meeting this sailor at Sam's, Steve Struve gave him a tryout on his J105. This tryout developed into a multi-year collaboration on many Tiburons, including the J105, the Santa Cruz 37, and campaigning the CNC 30 on the East Coast in 2017, where they received second place finishes at both Block Island Race Week and the New York Yacht Club Annual Regatta. Our yachtsman has traveled extensively for competitive sailing. He has sailed in several Key West race weeks on a One Design 35, a J70, and a J88. He's competed in 4 Chicago MAC races and 7 Lightning North American Championships. One memorable Key West race week was sailed with old friends from his junior sailing days 30 years before. Locally, he has sailed over 10 Rolex Big Boat Series, and in recent years, our yachtsman has also raced with the Peregrine crew, serving as tactician in the 2018 Big Boat. He's even a regular laser racer on the Belvedere Lagoon. In 2014, he teamed up again with Skip Dyball to win the Highlander Nationals. According to Skip, he had each leg of each race called perfectly, pulling calls out of his back pocket, which had us at times splitting from the competition, but with his confidence high, we'd go on to pick up the big shifts on his local knowledge. We won every race. In fact, our throwout race was a first. A fellow crew member says, "You can't talk about him without acknowledging his giving spirit, and that is part of the reason he is pleasant to sail with. But his ability to take in all the constantly changing data points and instantly react with adjustments makes it exciting, challenging, and fun to race with him." On a personal note, our yachtsman spent his college years in Maine at Colby College, majoring in political science and economics. Post-college, he began a stellar career in financial services and financial strategy with a number of notable companies, including Bank of America, and has served on many public boards, including chairman of the Chicago Stock Exchange. He began a family 15 years ago and is a devoted father with 4 wonderful children. In 2019, he became engaged to another sailor, and they have formed a close-knit family that seems to be constantly on the water. Even with an active racing schedule, a professional career, his SFYC commitments, and a large family, our yachtsman has managed to maintain a significant involvement with and contribution to the junior sailing at Pymatuning. He's been the director for countless junior camps and continues to actively compete and win in Pymatuning's lightning and laser races. His current lightning is, of course, named Relaxed, and also with painter's tape. Now, the Emmett L. Rixford Trophy is awarded annually to a member who exemplifies the distinctive and superior characteristics of Corinthian yachting. And that's very important, but so is also the outstanding service to the San Francisco Yacht Club, which is a component of the award. Our yachtsman has made numerous contributions to the club since he became a member in 2002. He is a naturally organized and engaging leader with a strong financial background, and he brings to every effort that same unique ability to look at all the data points in an ever-changing environment and come to a workable solution. He initially began serving the club in the area of his greatest interest, youth sailing. He served on that committee from 2002 to 2005. He joined the Harbor Committee from 2014 to 2016. In 2017, he moved on to the Board of Directors and then joined the Strategic Advisory Committee for the beginning of a 3-year term. He joined the Race Development Committee in 2018 and has chaired it since 2019. With his national racing background, he is a talented and capable chair for that group. Our yachtsman served as a member of the Finance Committee from 2016 to 2019 and is currently active as an advisory member. His efforts this year with the Youth Committee and its financial underpinnings were invaluable. For 2019 and 2020, our yachtsman also organized and chaired the Fleet Committee, thoughtfully selecting a group of sailors of all skill levels for program development and boat selection efforts. Please join the Board of Directors of the San Francisco Yacht Club in congratulating Matthew Freimeyer as the 2020 Yachtsman of the Year. Let's go to Matt.
Wow. I just texted Jen. I can't believe you didn't warn me. That way I would have known what to say. So I'm a little speechless. So first of all, I'll just say I'm honored and humbled. Sorry. Emotional week. For me, you know, sailing and being on the water, it's part of who I am, and the best part of it is the people that you do it with. And I've been so lucky to be able to share that with so many awesome people. And Madeline, thank you so much for that, what you just read. Even in this weird year, I got to crew for my fiance in a regatta. I got to sail with my kids on San Francisco Bay. I got to sail lightning with my sister. I got to do a Catch Me If You Can regatta with Steve Stroom and Hank Easom. And like, how cool is that? So I think it's about who you do it with. And I think that's why I love this club so much. It's a community of people that like to get out on the water, and you share it on the water, and you share it when you get back to shore. You share it in the bar together. I can't wait for that to happen again sometime soon. And I guess I'll just sum up by saying, you know, there's a lot of people at the club who worked really hard for the last couple of years to bring this fleet thing to fruition. And it's my sincere hope that that allows more people to get on the water and have the relationships that I have with people I get to sail with. So thank you.
Thank you and congratulations, Matthew Freimeyer. Right now, for what you've all been waiting for, is to get the annual election voting results. And we're going to switch to a Zoom feed to our head teller, Staff Commodore Wendy Miller, and she will tell us how the voting went and give us the results.
Thank you, Commodore Riley. With all the restrictions imposed upon us this year, it's nice to report to you even a small silver lining, and that is that we sent mail-in ballots to all 968 voting members for the first time in our club history. And it has been enormously successful, and I'll get to the numbers in a minute. We all owe a debt of gratitude to the tellers who braved the elements, the lucite shields, and the face masks helped collect and account your votes. Voting took place this week over 4 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and today, for a total of 13 hours. And these are the members who helped make it happen: Jessica Miller, Julie Zanz, Auxiliary Past President Stephanie Struve and Stephanie Portillo, and Staff Commodores Ray Lynch, Ken Frost, Paul Rosenland, Susie Moore, Gary Shepard, Jerry Eaton, John Scarborough, and Ed Lynch. So thank you to all the tellers. We received 322 total votes. This is the highest number of votes we have ever received. And of these, a full 88% were mail-in ballots. This is a huge success. The votes we received were well over the 15% quorum required by our bylaws. In fact, more than twice that quorum. And of the votes received, there is a resounding, near unanimous approval of all the board candidates, and there is well over the required 2/3 majority for all 4 bylaw amendments. And so I am very happy to say that our bylaws have been amended as stated, and to say congratulations to Commodore Don Jesberg, to all of our new officers and directors, and to our newest junior staff Commodore, Stu Riley. And with that, back to you, Commodore Riley. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Right now, I would like to provide our new Commodore, Don Jesper, with a flag and a pin.
Thank you very much, Stu. Thank you for the good news, Wendy. And thank you for all that are participating in this virtual meeting. According to Matthew Sessions, we have over 100 participants. And as Wendy said, we have 324 ballots that were cast. I guess that is a hugely popular vote. For starters, I'd like to present a gift to Stu, our outgoing Commodore. Stu, 2020 was a very challenging year, and you stood the watch well. You endured a storm over and over. One of the most important things on a ship is to keep time. You need an accurate timepiece to navigate. Without it, you are lost. In rough seas, keeping the ship's clock safe is a challenge. One solution is a gimbaled timepiece and a safekeeping in a box. And I hope you will treasure this and remember the rough seas that you endured throughout the year on your watch. 2020 with the inscription of CG/1. Stu, I offer that to you.
Thank you. Excuse me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to install all the new directors, beginning with Director Ethan Doyle, Director Leslie Ruland, Director Matthew Sessions, Director Alex Rothenberg, Director David Walker, Secretary Jenny Daly, Treasurer Quentin Hills, Rear Commodore Madeline Morey, Vice Commodore Christopher Lacey, and again, congratulations to our new Commodore, Don.
Stu, it's a great pleasure for me to recognize you as the newest member of the Staff Commodores Club with your silver stars. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'll tell you, it's quite an honor to be your 88th Commodore of the San Francisco Yacht Club. The Yacht Club has a long history, a very proud history, and is respected worldwide. I want to thank Stu for a tough watch, well served. You were hit with all kinds of assignments, known and unknown. I also want to thank the two directors that are leaving the board of directors, Dudley Mendenhall and Bob Brandt. Dudley was very instrumental on our board and a member of the House, chairman of the House Committee for a number of years. Bob Brandt and I have known each other through our service on the Finance Committee, which we literally served on together for over 20 years. I do want to mention the two incoming new board members, Leslie Ruland and Ethan Doyle. I look forward to working with both of you. You know, you don't get to choose when you go on watch. The time just comes. You know, you hope for sunshine and a spinnaker flying, but this year we're going to face a lot of uncertainties. There'll be lots of challenges ahead, and I will need everyone's help. I know I can rely on a large group of dedicated members to help me, to guide me. And my goals are to listen to the directors and include them in important decisions. I'll be counting on our committee members to bring important recommendations to our board. And I will try to guide our staff with clarity and certainty. At this time, I want to just mention and thank two of my mentors for the past 2 years. Both are staff Commodores and very helpful in preparing me to be your Commodore. That's Ted Gazoulis and Tad Lacey. Thank you. Both are very valuable members of the San Francisco Yacht Club. I also want to give another special thanks to Staff Commodore Paul Rosalind. After years of service as an officer and director of our club, this past year he took a new assignment, an appointment from our Commodore as a judge advocate. Another job well done during a challenging year. He's also agreed to be available for 2021. As we've talked about before, the future of our club is really the future of our members. And to that end, we have a very strong membership committee to build our future. Jenny Daly has been our membership chairman for the past 3 years and has done an exceptional job. This is the first year we introduced an updated membership process, and it was very well received. This year was a strong year for new members, and if initiation fees were strong, we added active members who want to be part of our yachting tradition. And speaking of tradition, San Francisco Yacht Club is known for its youth sailing. We used to call it junior sailing, and it has been the backbone of our club since the 1960s. This year was a shining light for all of us. We didn't concede to the COVID-19, but succeeded in training over 300 young sailors during 45 days of on-the-water summer sailing. For many of our children, this was an important get-out-of-the-house activity, maybe the most important for 2020, as many of them have yet to return to classroom learning. I'm very proud of our staff for their exceptional efforts. A big thanks goes to Forrest Gay and Abby Featherstone for a job well done. Our finance committee, Madeline, was kept busy all year long, and Madeline Moray was a very strong leader and supported with a very active committee. Among the tasks she spearheaded, we transitioned to a new controller. We managed club operations that were turned on, turned off, then turned on several times through the year. Our finance committee helped our staff navigate the uncertain times as best we could. This was accomplished by many extra hours by our committee members, very notably, actually, Matt Freimeyer, our well-deserved Yachtsman of the Year. Oh yeah, and Madeline, in your spare time, you wrapped up the financial affairs of the new Cove House that we're enjoying. Each invoice was approved by Madeline and a gang of 5 that met throughout the spring and summer. It was no small project, and they met their budget goals. This was over a 5-year project. Speaking of long-term projects, we have never been closer. Have you heard that saying? It's something that everyone around here has heard from Ed Lynch over many years. It was an incredible effort to bring this Cove House to completion, and it spanned over a 7-year period. Thank you, Ed. When I first wrote these notes, I started by saying I looked at 2021 as a year of reopening. And now we face a new round of shutdowns and shelter-in-place mandates. So hopefully early in 2021, we will have a chance to receive our vaccines and start socializing in a more normal fashion. Our state and county mandates should be restricted. We should be back to full activities, including sailing, dining, entertaining, meetings, and private parties. Speaking of full activities, we hope to get our racing calendar back on track in 2021. Our priorities are to sponsor San Francisco Yacht Club member races, youth races, and One Design local races. And as conditions allow, we will add regattas for regional and national events. For now, that is a lower priority as we get back on our feet. Our club racing events this year were great. The Race Council adoption of Catch Me If We Can races was very well received. We owe a thank you to Alex Rothenberg for spearheading this effort as the chairman of the committee. Well done, Alex. Our race development committee was chaired by Matt Freimeyer again. He had great plans for 2020, but in the end, there were very few opportunities for us to participate in special events. Unable to be idle, Matt spearheaded the activities of the fleet committee to bring the new venue of sailing and race opportunities to San Francisco Yacht Club. We've heard about it already, and we appreciate that effort. This is a very exciting program, a fleet of sailboats for everyone. It will help our club move forward. We're building many new opportunities for younger members to be more active and on the water. As I said before, the future of our club is our young members, and this is a great first step to welcoming them to our club. This is a real program for young sailors, their families, learn to sail, club races, etc. And I'm very excited about the whole program. As we know, 2020 had many social activities on hold. But as we look forward to 2021, our entertainment committee is already meeting and finding ways to have alternative ways to gather and have social activities. Our auxiliary did not miss a beat and is looking ahead at 2021 with plans to host events with entertainment. And they've already met to discuss going forward in productive ways. I want to thank outgoing auxiliary chair, Camille Jampolsky, for her great efforts this year. You all heard of her wonderful report. And I want to welcome incoming president, Leslie Rowland. I think we've made a wonderful step forward this year by selecting Leslie as a director as well. This will go a long way to bringing the club and the auxiliary functions into sync. It's fair to say that David Robinson got pressed into a position that was far beyond the job description he signed up for. He managed the affairs of the club in a professional way. His highest priority was the safety of our members and staff, and he received great respect for the way he managed under such trying conditions. David worked hard with all parts of our club to maximize opportunities for activities, sailing, youth and summer sailing, indoor dining, outdoor dining when available, bar service. He was actively involved with the clubhouse completion and preparation for activities that were planned but never occurred. Next year, we hope is different. There is so much that goes on at the club that is unnoticed. There are over 20 active committees. Too many to name, but thank you to the 100 plus volunteers that make it all happen. We had over 30 board meetings in 2020 and many special meetings among our executive committee. With the help of the Strategic Advisory Committee, affectionately known as the SAC, we brought forward updates and revisions to our bylaws and harbor rules. Thank you for voting them in. When the unknowns of the COVID-19 pandemic were becoming harder to navigate, they assisted the board in forming a new committee called the Crisis Management Committee. I hope we don't need to call on you in 2021. They also formed a formal disciplinary committee to make recommendations to the board when we have a member problem that need review and thorough consideration. Thank you, Tad, for a job well done. I'm excited to become your Commodore. I view my role as cheerleader, participant, active and caring, helping set high standards and, more importantly, ensure that the club survives even through these tough times with the challenges we will face. I look forward to working with Vice Commodore Christopher Lacey and Rear Commodore Madeline Murray. Communications are key to membership excitement and inclusion. Each week, a bow wave highlights recent activities and important notifications. I want these to become more personal and informative during my watch. Please send me emails, text messages, phone calls, whenever an event happens. If you're out racing, call me and tell me. I know we send juniors all over the country. Call me and tell me how you did. If you're cruising in Alaska or Canada or Mexico, I want to hear from you. I will also want to highlight some of the great stories from our past. Hopefully we will feel like a big family. I'm a big believer in the SFYC bulletin as well. Photos and articles from various committees are entertaining and informative. As we go through a major overhaul of our internal operating system, we will have a new, more robust web presence, not only online information, but interactive with reservations, accounting information, and so forth. It will be a big step forward. One request I have from all of you, with over 1,000 members at the San Francisco Yacht Club, plus family members, it's impossible to remember all your names. It's made even tougher now with everybody wearing masks. So when you see me, please say hello and remind me of your name. I might recognize your eyes, but it's difficult to greet everyone by your first name. And please help me. I also want to thank my wife, Eugenia, for all her support through the years getting here. And I look forward to her support during my years as the Commodore. I'm excited about the future. The near term looks uncertain, but the outlook for our club is bright. We have financial strength, strong membership, excellent facilities, great staff, and a wonderful culture. Do we have any new or unfinished business? And if the answer is no, I would like to call for adjournment of our meeting. As a special treat, now with the meeting concluded, I want to tell you we have a special video from Ken Frost from our House Committee, and I will consider now the meeting closed.